How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL deadline stream. Well, sort of. You probably are wondering why this is over on YouTube, because it is a pre-recording. I mentioned this over on Twitter a few days ago that I'll just be doing the deadline streams. This one I'm going to be doing in VOD form. I am in the chat right now, so if you put your questions throughout this pre-recorded video, I will be sure to answer them. It's just because basically if I don't leave towards the end of when the deadline stream would normally end, I'll be late for my pre-arranged engagements. So yeah, make sure to put your questions in the chat if you have any. I'm going to run through all the normal things like my score predictions, how my team did last week, score predictions for this week, all jam-packed inside of 30 minutes. And basically, if you are around the 15-minute mark before the FPL deadline, make sure to go check Twitter. I'll probably make a mention of that in this video as well. As a mental note for myself, even because I'll be in the chat as well for any potential team news, because Man City do have the early kickoff again, and basically we're trying to figure out if Foden and Haaland are going to start. Me personally, I only have just Erling Haaland, so we'll take a look at that, as well as what my transfers or transfer, because I have 2 frees this week, potentially already one of them's being used. And we'll see what those are looking like, as there's only 2 game weeks left before the World Cup. So, without further ado, let's see how the team did from last week. So, we have the team up on the screen here for you. And I'm just going to put a little bit, I forgot to put the music on, like the normal stream. So, we'll put that on there for you as well. We also even have a deadline stream timer, so that's going to be approximate. It'll be within maybe 30 seconds of when the actual deadline is going to be from the time of when you're going to be watching this. So this is how the team did. 73 points, fantastic. Just outside the top million after substitutions. We had Ray in goal with 3 points. Was more than happy with that, I think, given the circumstances. Trippier's 11 points. I mean, everyone pretty much has him, but Gahey and Cancelo coming in with clean sheets is definitely good to see. Gabriel Martinelli with 8 points. Again, everyone has him. Zaha, 2 points, disappointing. Andreas Pereira coming in for Erling Haaland. Saka with the assist, but then went off injured. Looks like he's going to be fine this week, which is good to see. De Bruyne was potentially one of my captaincy options. He got his 11 points, but I captained Jesus, who got himself 9 points, which is good to see. Mitrovic just the 1 point. He might be making way this week. So overall, a very, very good game week. I'm trying to break into that top million if I can. I just need one big game week to get myself some momentum. And hopefully it could come with this game week if we do get some early news that Haaland may be playing. And then it's all about kind of differential picks. And that may come in the form of my Arsenal players. It may come in the form of potentially getting on Newcastle this week as well. Maybe hanging on to Zaha might benefit me. It might not benefit me. We shall have to wait and see on that one. But overall, very happy with the game week. Didn't make a transfer last week, so we're rolling into this week. Let's see the point scores. The scores, rather. Not point scores. I mean, technically there's a point scoring because we do point scoring in our predictions. So the way it works is we have 3 points if you got the exact score right. 1 point if you got just the result right, and 0 points if it's anything else. So had I predicted, let's say, Man City Leicester 1-0, I would have got 3 points. If I predicted 2-0 Man City, then I would have gotten just the 1 point. And then if I had predicted, let's say, a draw, then I would have got 0 points. So we do have a snippet tool of what I predicted last week. I'll just bring that up for you as well. So here is our predictions tweet. We got it all sorted there for you. So I predicted Man City to win 3-1 over Leicester, so I get just the 1 point there. Typically in these in game weeks where there's 10 fixtures, we're looking to get somewhere in the region of around 8 points, which is basically 5 correct results and an exact score. So just over 50% of predicted correct results, and then an exact score if we can get it. Spurs Bournemouth, we predicted 2-1 in favor of Spurs. They ended up winning 3-2, having to come back in that one. So just the 1 point there. Brentford Wolves, bit disappointing on that prediction there. Predicted 2-0, ended up being 1-1. Wolves getting the inevitable Ruben Neves goal from way far out. That happens once every 3 games, so no points there. Brighton Chelsea, this did not go as planned for Graham Potter and his return to the Amex, and they got absolutely smacked from minute 1 to minute 90. 4-1 in favor of Brighton. We did not get that score correct either. Palace, we predicted 2-0 over Southampton. Just the 1-0 for Crystal Palace. So they got themselves a win at home. Newcastle, we predicted 3-0 over Aston Villa. Ended up being 4-0. So we get the 1 point there. Fulham, we predicted to beat Everton. Ended up being a bit of a dead rubber game, to be honest. 0-0. Both defenses holding out for clean sheets. So no points there. Liverpool Leeds got the scoreline the wrong way around. Leeds getting the goal at the very end to secure themselves a win away at Anfield. And that's the first time since Virgil van Dijk has joined Liverpool that he's lost at Anfield in the Premier League, which is a crazy, crazy stat. Because he was obviously injured with that ACL injury for the longest time when there was that big run where Liverpool were just losing games left, right, and center at home. When they were like losing 1-0 to Ashley Barnes' penalty versus Burnley and stuff like that. So we got that one wrong. And then Man United, we predicted 2-0 as well as Arsenal, 3-0 over Forest. We got 1 pointers for those there. So we got 6 results right, which means 6 points, but no exact scores, so slightly under the points total. In terms of our clean sheet and differential picks, we got the Crystal Palace clean sheet. White keeping himself a clean sheet as well. Sven Botman, I believe, was involved in getting, a clean sheet as well. So if you have him, well done. He was one of my differential picks that I put there as well. Raheem Sterling, unfortunately, was not one of those players. It was Havertz and Gallagher linking up for the Chelsea's only goal. So that one kind of failed a little bit. And then same for Leicester. Thought Vardy might nick something on the break. A little bit of a punt there, but 3 out of 5. On the differential picks, which is about par for the course. We just needed 1 correct score, and that would have been about what we're looking for at least every week. So in comparison to last week, we had 2 points and 0 out of 5 on differential. So we definitely improved for sure. I have a little notebook which kind of keeps it till the end of the season. That's probably about par. I mean, we last few weeks 4, 5, and 2 points. And kind of about middling on the differential. So definitely got a little bit better. Hopefully we can get it even better this week. So moving into those fixtures now. Let's close that tweet there. We'll bring up the notepad. And if you're not familiar, Fantasy Football Community. We do our predictions over at fantasyfootballcommunity.com. Quick little Google search. Usually there's an article that comes out, which I usually retweet and like, or my @ is mentioned over on Twitter. So make sure to follow us for that. And there's a bunch of others that do that as well, that we're all like kind of competing against each other. So make sure to go check that out. At one point during the early parts of the season, I was actually in first, which is interesting. But it's always about the end of the season, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But let's go through our predictions for this week. Now, it is a much later kickoff time this week as well, and depending on where you are in the world, time zones may have shifted or may shift during this weekend. If you're in on the Atlantic Standard Time, East Coast, those sorts of time zones, the time could be changing for you as the UK clocks have changed as of last weekend. That's why you see games on, at least on my time, usually they start 11 a.m. My time, which is 3 p.m. UK time. The UK have moved their clocks back already, which means that they are being played an hour later, my time, and then the times change back to normal on Sunday. Now, this may differ like it's in the regions, but the one important thing to note is the deadline. It is a later deadline that you can see right here. It is 1.5 hours before, so make sure to check that in your local time. It will show it in your local time always, but there are no early kickoffs. There's the 4 at what would be 3 p.m. UK time, and then the 7:30 kickoff between Everton and Leicester UK time. So let's run through those fixtures. Leeds versus Bournemouth. I predicted 3-1. I think Leeds, coming off a win at Anfield, will definitely get the job done versus Bournemouth, and the home crowd will definitely favor them. I still don't expect them to keep a clean sheet because they are open at the back at times, but I think Leeds will end up winning this one. Same for Man City. Man City play Fulham at home. Fulham are one of the worst teams defensively this season. They do play some nice football and do like to attack, but I think overall they're up against it going away to the Etihad, and I think City, especially if they have Foden and Haaland back, will be no match for Fulham. They will basically, Fulham won't have a chance, basically. I'm not sure if I said that the wrong way around, but basically Fulham don't really have a chance. I predict 4-0. Now, Forest and Brentford, I predicted 1-1. Normally, I would predict an away win for Brentford in this instance, but unfortunately, Ivan Toney picked up his 5th yellow card, which means he will not play in this fixture, but will be back in time for game week 16 when they play Man City. Unfortunately, that's not the greatest fixture for FPL managers, but if you're a Brentford fan, you definitely want him back for the Man City fixture. But for FPL purposes, he's not going to play in this one, so if you're expecting him to play and wondering why he's flagged, that is the reasoning. He picked up his 5th yellow card. So I expect it to be a bit more of a competitive game because I think a lot goes through Ivan Toney. They can't really use the get-out-of-jail free card with his just automatic penalty scoring as well. So I think this could be a competitive game, and I think Forest winning against Liverpool at home last time. They played someone that's going to give them basically a real tough test. And Brentford are no slouch. It could be a bit of a back and forward game, and I'm predicting a draw. I'm going with a 1-1. Wolves versus Brighton. I think Brighton will maintain a solid kind of defensive-oriented win here. I think that it'll be low scoring. I just don't see Wolves scoring anything outside of a random Ruben Neves set piece, basically, or a long-range effort from 40 yards. But that only happens once every 4 games anyway, so I expect a Brighton win in this one. Leicester and Everton. Everton typically don't concede more than 1 goal. I expect Leicester to score because they are one of the better teams at scoring goals, especially away from home. And I think it'll be a close affair. And I think 1-1 is the scoreline I'm going to go with. Early kickoff, lunchtime UK for Chelsea versus Arsenal. Big game, this one. I'm going to go with 3-1 in favor of Arsenal. I think they're just in much better form. Even though Graham Potter has all of these resources available to him, it seems like he may not know what to do with them as of yet. And he does have some injuries in certain positions, which may be causing him to not be able to play his ideal formation or that sort. So I'm going to go with an Arsenal win. They just seem to be ticking along quite nicely. And same for Manchester United, I think, away to Villa. Unai Emery's first game in charge. They'll actually be playing each other in 2 games back-to-back because they were drawn against each other in the Carabao Cup. United do have some potential doubts for this game. Anthony, Jadon Sancho, Martial still potentially out injured, but I think they get the job done, so I'm going to go in favor of United and go 2-0 on that one. Another away win, I think, for Newcastle, who are flying at the moment. 3-0 should be pretty straightforward. Callum Wilson is someone who was mentioning that he had like a cold or something, but I think he'll be just fine. The form that he's been in has been fantastic as well. West Ham versus Palace. I'm going to go with a 1-0 in favor of the home side, West Ham. I just think Palace away from home just aren't very good. They do concede just kind of random goals, and on set pieces can be a bit kind of dubious. So I'm going to go in favor of West Ham here. And last but not least, one of the other big games of the week, Spurs versus Liverpool. Son potentially undergoing surgery for the damage around his, I think it was his cheekbone or eye socket or something like that. He didn't look very good coming off the pitch. And whether he'll be available, I believe South Korea made it to the World Cup. I'm not entirely sure. But if they did, they're definitely going to want him for the group stage games. Actually, I'm going to look at that while I'm looking at it. Let's see. World Cup groups. Let's see. Let's take a look. World Cup groups. South Korea, I'm pretty sure they're at the World Cup. Yes, they're in Portugal, Ghana, and Uruguay's group. So yeah, they're definitely going to want Heung-min Son for that. Maybe they just prep him for that, but he won't be available in this one, which kind of leaves it all on to Harry Kane. Spurs and Liverpool both haven't been playing great, but if Liverpool kind of take more of the sit back and counterattack approach, they might be able to hurt Spurs. And I think this could be a game where Darwin Nunez potentially breaks out and causes the center backs some problems. So I expect it to be fairly close, but I think it's going to be a draw. Could be a much high scoring draw, but I'm going to go with a 1-1. I'm going to sit on the fence on this one. Clean sheets for this week. I'm actually going to go with Manchester United for the clean sheet. And I'm also going to go with, let me bring up the transfer screen here. I'm going to go with David De Gea, 4.9 million. Yes, he's only, yes, he's 6.9%. But we'll try to get as close to 5% as possible. My typing is awful at the moment. In defense, I'm actually going to go with a Brighton defender of some kind. I think Lewis Dunk is just over 5. Webster is probably going to be under 5%, so we'll go with him. I just think Brighton defense this week and next week, if you're looking for a cheap defender, which I am currently in the market for, could be an option this week. And I expect Brighton to keep clean sheet versus Wolves, and then another one versus Aston Villa as well. In midfield, a differential pick this week, Leandro Trossard. Well, he's 24%, so we can't go with him. I thought he was much lower owned than that. So let's think of another potential midfielder that we could go with. I know Almiron is gaining a lot of attraction. He was on the thumbnail, 26%. He's even higher owned. I believe Rashford is probably over 5% for sure. So it's very hard to think of midfielders at the moment that could potentially be good. Maybe the likes of an Iwobi potentially at home to Leicester. Maybe he is someone who has been in good form recently. 2 assists in the last 4 games played. Got himself 1 goal, 5 assists. A very cheap asset, all things considered. 5.6 million. So let's go with Alex Iwobi at 2%. They also have a good game versus Bournemouth in Gameweek 16. You can't see that because of the notepad, but they do have Bournemouth away. And he was 2% owned. And then forwards, I'm pretty sure he's gone over 5% by now. And you may have seen him kind of in my team at the moment. He's 11%, but I'm going to go with him because he was much lower owned than before. And I think he just is too good to pass up at the moment. I'm going to go with Callum Wilson as the pick for this week up front. Not many forwards really to choose from, so he's the one that I'm going to go for. So if you go check over on my Twitter at the time of this video, you probably would have seen the predictions in full over there. I post them over there. If you go under media, you'll see it with the thumbnail of the stream as well. Also, as a note, it is under 12 minutes, going under 11 minutes in a few seconds here. So there's potentially already some team news out at the time of this video releasing for Man City, which is the important one. So make sure to go check it out. And I wouldn't leave it more than a couple minutes more to lock in your teams. So make sure to go do that right now. Make sure to go do that right now. And get it sorted, because last time the website crashed with like 5 or so minutes to go. So make sure to go do that. Check to see if there's early team news. Basically, if this clock above me that you see goes below the 10-minute mark, you're starting to risk potentially the website breaking. And if you leave any transfers to the last minute, could be an issue. So make sure to go do those right now. Make sure to go do them right now. And speaking of my moves, this is my team currently as it stands. I'm going to move that notepad out of the way for you in just a second. So there it is. We got the team up in full. We got Raya in goal. We got João Cancelo, Trippier, Mark Guehi, De Bruyne with the vice captaincy currently, Saka, Martinelli, and Zaha, with currently Erling Haaland holding the armband, Gabriel Jesus and Wilson, with Andreas Pereira, Cucurella, and Nico Williams on the bench. I made the transfer from Mitrovic to Wilson before the 2 price rises for Wilson. I think he'll be more than fine to play, so I'm glad to have him in the team. I'll tell you what my plans are going to be if there are some potential players that are, like, you know, missing out or whatever. So let's run through that. We got FPL.team. So this is what my team looks like as it stands. The amount we have in the bank is 0.5 million, not 0.3. So I would be more than happy to roll this team as it stands. So if Haaland is starting, I'm just going to captain Haaland. It just makes sense to do so. In If Haaland is not starting but is on the bench, I will play Haaland and I will captain De Bruyne. My vice captaincy will go on probably Wilson, I guess, because we presume that De Bruyne is going to play. If I find out for whatever reason that Haaland and De Bruyne are not starting, but they're both on the bench, I will still play them both. I will probably captain Wilson, and I would then probably have to make a transfer to strengthen my forward line just a little, or basically my lineup in general just a little bit, because Kukure I don't expect to get many points, Nico Williams either. So what I might have to do is get rid of maybe Nico Williams. I have the funds to go from Nico Williams up to a 4.6 million defender. So Shaw is just out of reach. I believe Delo is out of reach as well. So I can go to Botman as an example, if I wanted the Southampton away fixture, because it would just be kind of a cover. Or I could go Kukurea to basically those two aforementioned defenders for Man United. If I find out that Haaland is not playing at all, like he's not in the team at all, again, I would just basically start him and just Andreas Pereira will come in and fill in. But I might still make the defensive transfer to make it so that I at least have an extra body that's better on the bench, because I'm not guaranteed that Nico Williams is going to start. And I potentially could play both Gehi and like Delo or Shaw as an example for Man United. That would potentially be the option. So, and just play like a 4-4-2 if I know for sure that Haaland is not going to play, or at least line them up in such a way to where if it's like, you know, fake team news or something like that, if Haaland does come in randomly, then it's fine. If I find out that Haaland is going to start, I'm going to captain Erling Haaland. It just doesn't make sense not to. Again, if he's on the bench and De Bruyne starting, then I'm going to captain De Bruyne. We'll keep Haaland in the team. That's more than fine, because he can come on and do devastation in 30 minutes. We know he's almost certainly not going to participate in the Carabao Cup fixture, but he will almost certainly participate in the Brentford at home fixture on the following weekend, where it's the last game before the World Cup break, which he will not be participating in because Norway are not part of the World Cup this time around. They did not make it, unfortunately. So that's kind of the scenarios. But as it stands now, I think the most likely scenario is that I'm going to captain De Bruyne if Haaland is not available, as in he's on the bench, and I will vice captain Wilson or somebody else. But more than likely, this is probably what the team is going to look like in some way, shape, or form. And I can roll the transfer going into next week, where I can do basically, let's say if Haaland is on the bench, and everyone else seemingly is going to be, you know, fine, I'll go into next week with 2 free transfers. The main issues basically there would be that I would want to get rid of Raya for a different goalkeeper, and then maybe I look to get rid of someone else in the team. Maybe if Wilson picks up an injury or something like that, or strengthen elsewhere, or maybe go for some type of upside chasing. You know, not sure where that would be. Maybe De Bruyne, have a fun with a hit like De Bruyne to Foden, Raya up to a different goalkeeper, and then instead of having like Trippier at home to Chelsea, where potentially they could concede, go for, I don't know, Trent or something like that. I don't know. We'll see how that one goes. But hopefully I'm able to have 2 free transfers, and then I can do something a bit crazy in game week 16. But yeah, so that's the team currently as it stands. More than likely, I've already posted the lineup over on Twitter, so make sure to go check it out in full. It will almost certainly resemble this team in some way, shape, or form, with a Man City player being captained. If I had to order my captaincy, I would say Erling Haaland, if we know he's fit and starting, is number 1, guaranteed. Number 2 would be Kevin De Bruyne, if we know that you know, he's fit and starting. Then I would say probably Phil Foden is number 3. I would then say probably Salah or Kane are probably tied for number 4. And then like the outside picks would be like Wilson, Cancelo. These sorts of players would probably be in and around that mark as well. But a Man City player this week seems almost certainly nailed on. It's just who's going to be the right one. I don't think I'm going to get rid of Haaland regardless, because I think that having the value of the extra 0.3 could prove to be quite valuable if we're able to go triple premium later on in the season. So I'm going to hang on to him as long as I can. And it seemingly looks like even if he doesn't play this weekend, he will be almost certainly nailed on to start in that Brentford at home game, which is the most important one. So there's going to be approximately around 3.5 minutes or so before the FPL deadline, so make sure to have your team more than locked in by now. This is definitely the danger zone. For all I know, the site has frozen up, which is very possible, so make sure to have your teams locked in, secured, and ready to go. Hopefully, you all have a good game week 15. We have the Carabao Cup fixtures in midweek, and then we have the final fixtures before the World Cup. The World Cup should be exciting. Unfortunately, having it in the middle of the season means certain players won't make it, like Ben Chilwell, only a couple of days to go, getting injured, which seems to be a serious hamstring injury. Timo Werner looks to be out long-term as well. It's kind of the disadvantages of having it in the middle of the season like that. But regardless, hopefully it is a good competition. Hopefully everyone is safe in that as well. And hopefully we can have a good remainder of the FPL season before the World Cup. So happy Game Week 15, everyone. Hopefully you locked in your teams by now. You still have potentially another 2.5 minutes if the site isn't already locked up on you. But yeah, let's move over to the big screen. So thank you all for watching this deadline stream bod-ish sort of thing. Hopefully I answered your questions down in the chat. I'm going to be signing off now, so hopefully I was able to help you out, or at least someone else in the chat was able to help you out as well. Usually the community is quite helpful in that regard. So I will see you next week for the Game Week 16 deadline stream, the last one before the World Cup. Make sure to like, follow, favorite, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. And until next one, take care.